Hey everybody, we are here for the GLAAD IG Hangouts. It's your man KP here for another sit down with one of the more interesting people that are going on. We are talking to Mr. Rashad A. Muhammad today. He's a native Washington, D.C. artist, and he explores the intersections of culture, spirituality, identity, emotions, and nature through collage. So stay tuned as we touch on how their work celebrates the vastness of the human spirit, as well as reinforcing notions of authenticity, self-love, and connection, while addressing stereotypes and misconceptions relating to people of color and queer people. So I believe that is him right there. How y'all feeling today? Happy Tuesday. Y'all had a whole holiday yesterday. Rashad, what's going on?
Hi,
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? I love that introduction.
Oh,
Great.
thanks. I practiced all weekend for you just to make sure I get it right. But how's your Tuesday? Or
Things are
you
going,
say
life is
less.
life, and okay? Life is life.
It was getting Lord, I'm tired.
And the day's not done, but we
Okay.
just do what we got to do.
Listen, and we're gonna push it forward. So we're gonna have a good interview today. So I gave you a good introduction, but how introduce yourself to the people. What would you like the people to know about you?
Okay, let's see. Like you said, I'm a DC native artist, graphic designer, art director. I do all things creative. I'm always open to exploring new things, and as you were talking about, I like to explore a lot about the human experience in my art.
Hmm.
And I've been focused on expanding more, and then kind of just growing my creative endeavors really. So you
Okay.
mentioned art, and I'm kind of exploring fashion. I'm exploring
Oh,
some other areas.
okay. We're
But
dabbling, and dipping.
yes, exactly. I'm a, what's the master of none? Something.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
That's it. So
Gotcha.
yeah, I do a lot.
Okay, so can you talk about a little bit more about the fashion, or is it like kind of under wraps until we get some more details?
I'll say I won't give any brand names or anything, but so like this outfit I'm wearing right now, I'm not gonna stand up right now.
Okay,
But
we'll just get the neck up.
yeah. So I've
It's
been
given.
I like went to sewing class and I started to learn how to sew, and then my focus was working on doing like more textile design, surface design, and making my own clothes from that. But then this outfit I made from a fabric I got at a store, and then I was just like trying to find some easy things that I could make, and then from the outfit I like a little monochromatic look, so this whole I make a whole look, and so people were like, oh, can you make me that? I was like, I
Hmm.
could. I don't really want to do all that, so I'm like, well, maybe I need to get like a seamstress and stuff like that. But so there's that side, and then I might move into like some more like athleisure wear. But that's
Okay.
a lot that goes into fashion and making like a brand. So I was like, I'm gonna take
Mhm.
that very slowly, but
Yes.
the goal is there. Yeah, it's definitely
Okay.
a goal.
Okay, don't make it a spring summer situation because I need them pieces right now. You said monochromatic, that's my lane. So I'm like, okay,
Okay, okay,
I love a good head to toe as long as it's like fitting and hitting the right piece in the right spaces.
yeah.
So did you get into the fashion aspect just because for the love of it, or is it like, okay, well, this is like, all right, I'm gonna dabble in this because it has something to do with art and how I express myself, or is it just like, all right, I just want to do something new?
It's more so about expressing myself and expressing so like one of well, not one of my business model, personal model is don't blend in, stand out. So I
Mhm.
like to portray that in my style. And then so I like to say more so I'm stylish than fashionable.
Okay.
But so it's more so about what do I want to wear, and then
Mhm.
if people are interested in it, then I can like expand more into that, and that's kind of where it grew from. Similar to how I do art, like I create for myself, and then
Mhm.
it speaks to more people. So then they get into it.
Okay. All right. Well, that was a great segue, by the
Oh,
way. So
okay.
let's talk about the art. Where what was your inspiration for getting into the line of artistry that you want to portray into the world? Like, was it just a hey, I saw insert inspiration here, or was it just something that's how you've always expressed yourself?
So if you talk to my mom, she'll always say, when I was a kid, I was always drawing on the walls. So I've always
Mhm.
been an artist, I guess you could basically say. But then basically I guess the trajectory has been I'm a trained graphic designer, went to American University, and then working in like different in-house design teams, I got a little burnt out. And so I used to be a photographer too. That was a
Okay.
little, working with people wasn't my favorite thing when I was younger. You know,
Mhm.
people a little,
A
oh,
little yummy.
mhm.
Very-
So I was like,
Oh.
I'm gonna leave that alone. I want to do something fully on my own. So then that's where the art came into play. I started with like painting. I dibbled and dabbled with that when I was in high school. Did a little bit in college. But then as I started painting more and more, I think actually my mom was the first one who was like, well, you're making all this painting, so like present them, go do something with it. So I was like, okay. So I went, like my first like public thing was like doing a vending for like a, what do you call it, a wedding bridal fashion show. And so it was
Okay.
like, I'll say my art wasn't necessarily geared towards that space, but it was like my first time doing something, so it was great to just be out and getting feedback from people. So from there, I did other little shows, did other things like that, and then I just kind of learned more along the way, went to lectures and understood like the lane I wanted to go down. So like I wanted to go really down the fine art realm of art. Like there's a lot of different ways you can be an artist and be thriving these days. So
Mhm.
I just definitely want to do fine art, and like I'm growing and expanding to being more of like a corporate artist, and like getting more of those kind of they got the money, honey. So
Okay.
it's
I
great to have,
listen.
it's
When you
great to
said it,
have
I thought
collectors,
it.
but
They
they
got
got
the
the
coins and
thousands.
they'll give
Oh,
you the platform. So perfect. I
okay.
get it.
So but from there, honestly, just in terms of like the what I do in my art, um it's interesting. Are you, well, you're an actor, you're a model.
Mhm.
What other creative things do you do for yourself? Like,
Well, right now I am creating a show called Making a Moment. So that's also working with people, and it's doing exactly this: talking to Black queer creatives, getting into their why, but also like not contextualizing them in like a one-dimensional sense. Like I do this thing, I do this thing. It's like let's expand our horizons beyond our descriptors of what we do. It's like let's
yeah,
flesh each other out as people. So that's requiring a lot of like internal work, getting out amongst the people, and that is actually expanding like what I like to do and what I'd like to deep and dabble into. So yeah.
got it.
Mhm.
Interesting. So it's interesting you say that, because a lot of things you said kind of uh, go back to like my journey. It's kind of where I am now, and the mindset of the human experience is that kind of idea. What you're talking about, it's like we're multidimensional people.
Right.
We're not just, I'm not just black, I'm not just queer, I'm a lot of these different things, and I'm all the
Mhm.
things at once, as opposed to just
Right.
saying I'm this and that. But like, so for the journey, like starting out, I was creating and I didn't really understand what I was creating before. I was just kind of like coming from the imagination, coming from, I guess you could say, what I like to say, what the spirits and what the ancestors are trying to put into me and what comes out on the
Mhm.
canvas. I didn't really understand what I was doing.
Mhm.
Literally, I just had a conversation with my partner. He has a piece of mine. And so like, he was kind of like telling me about the piece for himself. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't even see that until you told me that. And like, the piece had been done for like 2 or 3 years. And
Okay.
so, but from my journey, it's been like, once I went to Africa in at the end of 2019.
Mhm.
Literally came back and the pandemic happened, so it's like, or the quarantine happened.
Mhm.
And so, but over during Africa and like kind of thinking about it after the fact, it was like understanding more of the intention behind my art and the intention of like what I'm trying to portray. And that's where I got more into this deeper understanding of that my art isn't like, it's not just black art, it's not just queer art, it's not just whatever other identifier you want to put onto it. It's like a multidimensional aspect of my life and like my experiences, and me trying to explore that with other people as well, and like how that can connect to other people, not just specific groups of people, but
Right.
not saying I can't do lines or specific collections that are more focused,
Niche.
but
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mhm. You know what's funny is I went to Africa too in 2018, and I had that a similar experience to that. It was literally like going there and awakening your third eye into like what's a possibility of what you can make your art. Because prior to that, I was doing a show called Love at First Night, and that was a successful show. But then I went to Africa because that's where I got signed to my first agency.
Oh,
And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm doing this show because, we just got to show this experience and show like what we go through in our day-to-day lives. And then I go out to Africa And on the third day being there, mind you, I went to Cape Town. I lived there for like 3 months,
Oh,
and never been there forever. Never been there a day in my life. Right? Some person comes up to me in the middle of the club at 1 o'clock in the morning, and is like, "Aren't you that person from Love at First Night?" And just
oh
when I'm like,
wow.
"Oh, okay, I see. It's impact." And it just made me realize that like the things that we do, they're not for ourselves. They're representative for a culture. They're representative for everybody's perspective to gain perspective on all of our experiences. And it made me think of the things that I do to do it with more intention, to be more fully fleshed out, and to also just like show every aspect of who we are at the highest degree. So is that something, well, I've heard from what you said, but but as you move forward in your artistic journey, is that something that you keep in mind ever since you come back from Africa, and then even during your experience with COVID?
Definitely, definitely that. It's like you were talking about the experience. And just so I went to Togo, Benin, and Ghana, and like,
Mm.
well, did you? Well, when you were in Cape Town, did you go to any like the slave dungeon or slave areas and stuff like that?
Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to, but I did read up and just converse with a lot of the people that were there about the slave culture and just getting perspective on the lands, because everybody's thinking like Africa huts and all this other good stuff. I'm like, it's a fully civilized nation. It's very Americanized too. So I'm
Okay,
like, it's all these misconceptions about what's
they love
going
to
on, but
they love to play with that. Like, oh,
it,
they're
it
uncivil. Like, girl, wait a minute.
it's given erasure, and I don't like that.
Okay, okay,
I don't like that. Don't construct that narrative when y'all taking a lot of, So
okay, okay.
very.
All right.
Mm.
Very that. But so the
Hmm.
reason I asked you, so like when I was in Africa and just I think one of the more transformative experiences was being in the slave dungeon, like visiting it and like honestly sitting in it and like I'm I'll say I'm a spiritual person, very into the energies of things and stuff like that. Like you could feel it in the room, you could feel it kind of seeping in. So it's like I
Hmm.
think from there I really took from that like the notion that we've been through our ancestors have been through so much to get to where we are now, and it's like
Right.
it's kind of focusing on the resilience and the strength that we have innately in our ancestry. And so it's like
Right.
kind of what you're talking about in terms of like putting all of yourself into what you create is what I focus on. And it's like kind of like what I'm talking about of the not focusing on specific niches in my artwork. It's kind of the I do things as I'm inspired. So like I'll say there's a lot of artists that I recognize, especially like older artists, like they stick to one style and they kind of
Hmm.
expand upon the style. Maybe they'll do a different subject, but they still stay in the same style. I don't
Hmm.
stay in the same style. I think I get bored a little bit there. So
Hmm.
I'm always, especially I think that's how I got to collaging. Collaging actually came out after the Africa trip, and I like stopped painting for a while. And during the pandemic, I kind of shifted what I was doing, what I was creating, and I had always wanted to do collaging, but I always thought, oh, I don't really know how to do it. But I was like,
Hmm.
teach yourself how to do it, and so I did. And
Right. And
so
YouTube is right there, so you can always find out.
you can
Yeah.
figure out all
Yeah.
the things, you can
Right.
experiment, you can do all the stuff. And so from there, that's when I really flourished, and I really explored a lot of different subject matters or like styles. And so like honestly, once I really tapped into that, and honestly, it's great having a partner that can be your mirror. And
Hmm.
so he was like, well, this is part of the fashion thing too. It's like he told me one day, he's like he's seen me do a lot of stuff, and he noticed that whenever I'm using my hands, I'm very, I could say, limitless in what I can create. And I was like, I never thought about it like that, but like that's been kind of like a mantra of focus as since he mentioned that. So it's like I think that's why I focus on just like I can do anything I want to do. It's just a matter of time or like understanding the resources and research and things like that. So like the art that I've been doing ever since I focused my mind on that, everything has expanded and exploded and just been fantastic, honestly.
Yeah, just taking your time, and then sometimes, like you said, stepping away from a little bit to live a little bit of life and get experience, and just look at things through a different lens and through a different experience with your experiences as you gain them, right? So, question. What would you say is your most creative space that you find yourself more inspired in? Is it at home? Is it like when you're out in nature? Where would you say you're most creative?
I'd say I'll say I get my most inspiration honestly from having conversations with people. So it's like I love hearing people's stories. I love hearing people's like perspective on things because you know
Mhm.
we all have our own perspectives. But I
Right.
like to hear. I'll say I like to live a balance. I like to be balanced in my mindset. So it's like I might think a thing, but if someone says something differently, and I'm not. We can debate. You know, we can talk about it, and
Mhm.
like I might be intrigued by what you're talking about, but or just having like you know people that have had traumatic experiences that for me it's like everyone's dealt a certain hand and you can't say I don't like to compare people's stories because it's like you know you did that versus you're going through this, I'm going through this, but it's not, they're not exactly the same, everybody's different. So it's kind of like what inspires those conversations inspire me to either introspect and think about you know my experiences like well what if that happened to me or and
Mhm.
then that kind of goes into the art. And so like I remember I was at a show and I had one of my abstract floral pieces, and so this woman she was like I'm colorblind, so she was like I love your piece though because I can see the textures although you couldn't see the colors. I was like I wouldn't even never thought about that. So it's like even hearing her tidbit of that, it's like moving forward with those pieces, I am focused more on the contrast and making sure that because she was like, oh, some areas the colors blend together. So I was like, well now I'm making sure there's a lot more contrast just to make sure from different perspectives it's still dynamic for other people. But I wouldn't have known that if I wasn't like talking to somebody. So yeah.
Hmm. Do you feel like, just in your experiences, since you like get context from other people, that it sometimes messes up your like natural instinct to like this is what I want to create if you're hearing other people's voices in your head, or is it more of an inspiration to just expand on it?
So I'd say earlier on in my art, it would probably shift my mindset a little bit. Like I think the earlier stuff I was painting, I was doing a lot of portraits, but I was doing like surreal skin tones and then using a lot of gold leaf. It was, you know, I think at one point, I think because I was like really in early on, I was kind of like asking people like, well, should I do celebrities? Because that seems to be what everybody's interested in. And if I do a celebrity,
Mm-hmm.
then people will buy the piece more. I was focused, I guess you could say I was focused more on what I thought people wanted to buy versus just what I wanted to create, and then people being interested in what I'm creating naturally because that's what's coming out of me. But then I'll say now, no, I don't really think a lot of input doesn't really it doesn't convolute my process. It doesn't really convolute my interest or anything. So it's just like me, I can pull and you know pinpoint things that people say versus being like, oh, well, I got to do it this way. But no.
Just being true to your process.
Mm-hmm. I
Got
know
it.
what I want to say.
I'm glad that you actually brought up the internet because the internet has, especially recently with social media and everything, has been changing the way we've been consuming art and the way we even receive art because there's constant criticism, there's constant like a rat race to see who can make the most or create the most and everything. And you touched on it briefly when you were talking about like it influencing in your early career, how it influenced how you make your art and who you're making your art for. How has that process, what are your real feelings on the internet and consumerism with art? Do you think it's taken away from the purity of making art for art's sake, or just are we doing things for sensationalism and that's how we consume it, or even to be seen?
I think it's a bit of both. I'd say for the arts for art for the art for art's sake, it definitely I think pulls away from it. I'll say if an artist isn't really fine tuned in what they're trying to say and know what they want to say, you
Mm-hmm.
can get drawn into that trap of like, well, I got to make this for this. I got to make this real. I got to make this video. I got to make this content.
Right.
It's like, girl, wait a minute, stop. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so like, I remember an artist. He was a performance artist. He went to Amsterdam and he saw an older artist, and so or he talked to the old artist. The artist was saying, or no, they were asking him, "Are you on Instagram?" And the guy was like, "No," and they were like, "Well, why not? Your art can be in all over the place," because they loved it.
Right.
And then he was like, "Well, you're from America and you're here, so why should I worry about that? You're already
He
here, so
got
it's like
that.
whatever." So I was like, I thought about that. I was like, wow, that's an interesting thing to do. I mean, I'm not going to not be on social media because I mean, I know branding and marketing and stuff like that, but it is that side of like understanding that balance of creating what you want to create and like you know, getting the video footage while you're doing it, as opposed to like being convoluted and making like a big shebang about it. Like, I mean, I know I'm saying this here. Well, it's gonna be live now, but
I was you
it's
got
a.
your own.
I'll say it's interesting seeing artists that, like, for instance, they have, you know, they have a very sexy body. They have this, that, and whatever. But it's like, instead of showing the art, you're showing your body with the art. You're giving, you know, sex sales, of course. I get that, but it's like, do you want to be focused on that, or do you want to be focused on your art? So it's kind of, I can see how people dabble on that line. I personally just like to show my art because I don't like to convolute what I'm trying to say with
Right.
extra things or whatever. But that's just my
Right.
perspective. But I do
mean, you know,
understand marketing, and, you know, hey, do your thing.
it's
I'm not
fair.
knocking nobody.
I mean, listen, do your thing, but also, but no, I ask art for art's sake because when I like to consume people's art or their project is like, okay, are you doing it for because I truly love to do this, or is it for a capitalistic gain? Like to be like, oh, okay, like you said, it's like I'm selling my body on top of selling my look. I just so happen to make art. The people that
Mm-hmm.
I interact with and work with, just from my personal opinion, they're purists, and it's like, yes, this is what I'm doing. Even if I got like one like, I'll still do the same thing because this is what I love to do, and the message isn't to become ubiquitous or omnipresent. It's to just do what I love in an expression of what I love to do. And just from that answer alone, it's like, oh, okay, perfect. Like there's great people that use the internet as a supplementary source as opposed to their primary source and aren't just trying to become famous for famous sake, because that's how sometimes people burn out, because I'm like, okay, well, people want this because I got to keep doing it, got to keep doing it, got to keep doing it, and they lose their creative juices because they're trying to think of mass production instead of art for art's sake. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like I think it speaks volumes to what you do. I think it speaks volumes to other people who approach the process like you. But I don't think, for the record, live, I don't think there's a right or a wrong way to do it. I just think, there's just perspective of how you
Right.
go about it. But the way you do it seems to have been working really well because you have a couple grants that you won, right?
I
Oh.
did. Oh yeah, that happened recently.
Oh, okay. I mean, I see one in 2022. I see one in 2020. Like it's within the last 2 years. It's pretty recent.
I've been doing some things, honey.
Okay, I see.
I was like, even just, I'll say that process. So actually, I was just talking to another artist the other day, and so like I'll say, so I've been doing art since 2016, and so
Okay.
I really haven't, like, I think things really started to flourish more when I got more focused and more honed in on exactly what I wanted to do and the goal of where I wanted my art career to go. And part of that
Right.
was I talked to an art advisor. Her name's Danielle Glosser, art client raiser, if you know, shouting her out. But like she helped me focus on the goals of what I wanted to do and how I wanted to get there. So it's kind of like I want to be a fine artist and be known for fine art. So it's like there's like, you know, the art world, there's a lot of things in the art world, but focusing my resume or the opportunities I'm applying for and things like that, just focusing specifically on those kind of, having the mindset of focus on the goal at the end. And so like when I talked to this other artist recently, she was like, she's been in like a art assistant before and doing this, that, and the third. And so when I asked her, she's like, you know, are you applying for shows? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? She's like, well, I haven't really been doing anything. And I was like, well, I mean, you can't expect to be out there if you're not putting yourself out there. Like, honestly, I'm applying to things constantly. And so even for that grant that I won, the grant that I won, like I applied to it. And so it was for an NFT collection I did. And so honestly, I think that's why I was so intrigued by it, because the NFT collection I did, I only did it to dabble in NFTs. It was like when I first heard about NFTs, I think it was like the end of 2021 or something like that. And I was like playing around with stuff. And so I typically am a physical artist. So I wanted to try digital. I'm a graphic designer, so I have the capabilities to do it. And I was like, okay, I never did it before because I never knew how to sell it. So I was kind of like, well, just, I'll dabble and do this thing. And so the collection that I created, it's very in my, whimsical style and very vibrant. So, but when I applied to it, you kind of apply to some things. You're like, okay, I'm applied. The intention is like, yeah, of course I could win. You might think to yourself on the inside, I was like, oh, okay, maybe, I don't know.
Right.
So when I got the email, I was like, girl, what?
Oh,
Okay.
oh.
I was like, all right.
I'll take that.
But yeah, so it's just, and it's interesting. So I'm not going to give the full details, but it played right into. I'm like I said a little bit earlier. I'm very into balance. I'm very into spirits and spirit energy and the world and whatever. So I'm very into like signs and symbols and things like that. So the grant that I won was like enough money to help. So I have a fund going for my new studio that I'm opening in the 1st of November at the Torpedo Factory in Alexandria. If you're in the DMV area, come out to the Torpedo Factory.
Listen, plug.
Okay,
we gotta ask for it again.
Come on. So literally though, like there was a lot of different things that came together. Honestly, when I applied for the studio, I even had to ask my partner, I was like, I don't know if I could do this. Like, it's like, when you're like leveling up and it's like that next step, you're kind of like, can I do that? Like, is this feasible? He's like, bitch, go do it. Like, you got it. I was like, he even was saying, it's like, you've been doing all the things to get to where you're trying to go to. And I was like, yeah, you're right. So, so like I did that. I applied for that, got it. That's why, it was like, it's a jury process. It's like interview and they judge and stuff like that or whatever. So got into that. And then thinking about, furnishing the studio and stuff like that. So the grant came kind of like a month before I'm doing that for the studio. So like there's that. And so like the studio came also when another, I say a gallery was asking me to do a commission piece, like a large commission piece. Still waiting for things to be, signed and the T's crossed and the I's dotted. But I was like, the perfect timing though, because I was like, I really need the larger space to do the work. So it's like everything's coming to fruition and everything's feeding into each other. So it's like, it's a lot.
It's like perfect alignment.
Say it again.
Yeah, it's perfect alignment. And then,
alignment.
You know what? Speaking of perfect alignment, this is so crazy because like this is literally where I'm at in my life. Like I'm a super planner, over preparer. Like no, the I has to be dotted and the T has to be crossed for everything. And I love a good rollout. I love all this other good stuff. So much so to the point where I'm like double guessing myself. Like, did I do enough? Did I do enough? Do I do enough? And I have one of my person that I'm creating my show with. My creative director, Mark. Hey, Mark, I think he's in here. But I told him literally a list of everything I'm doing to the T where it's like super neurotic. And he's like, Kyle, you're the most prepared bitch that I have ever run across. So why don't you just like do the thing and do the thing and stop like doubting yourself or your process or thinking there's going to be a right time to do this or drop this or looking for a viral moment or any of these things. Just like do the thing and keep doing the thing and being consistent at it because you already have all the capabilities within you. And that's circling back to when you was in the slave quarters and be like, you just feel all those energies and those spirits and be like, it's already innately in you. So all you have to do is just do it, and because nobody can do it like you. So I'm like that. I'm grateful for you to share that because literally 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I was having like this whole meltdown about like, all right, I gotta do this thing, and I'm like, all right, I gotta do it, but I do have the energy to do it, and am I gonna be good enough? And it's like, no, you already are good enough. You've been doing it. Like literally, the fact that we're sitting here talking to each other on like a major social platform, like doing these things, and they trusted us with this vision means you've been doing it. So just do some more. And then also when stuff scares you, that means that's what you have to do because it's going to push you to the next level. You know what I mean?
Yes, I didn't think about that. Yeah. But yes, that's so. Yeah. It's interesting. You said the phrase you said. I forgot the phrase you said, but I literally was doing that with my partner. Hey, Kareem. I literally was just talking about this with my partner like the other day and like over the weekend. It's like that moment when you've asked for the things you wanted to, you've asked for the stuff to happen, and when it's like happening, it's like, oh shit, like, oh my god,
Right.
I gotta do it.
It's real.
And you're like, it's scary, it freaks you out, but then you know you just gotta do it too.
Right.
But then also, like, even for him, he's similar to you. He's like, he plans constantly. Hi mom, hello Kathy.
Hey,
Connects.
mama.
I was like, she's been chatting things here and there. So he's been like planning and doing this and doing this and doing that, and like he definitely is a over analyzer. And I'm like, girl, honestly, my mom's taught me this before. It's like, just do it. You gotta do it. You gotta build as you go sometimes, and just like you said, there's no right choice. He's been saying like, do the next right thing. I'm like, no.
Yeah, the right thing is the thing I do.
Exactly. The right thing is the thing I do, and everything that you do, you can shift as you go. So it's like, no, there's no wrong thing to do. It's just the thing you do at the time. And if you got to shift, you got to adjust. That's kind of what you do. That's honestly, that's being an entrepreneur. And just in the world, it's like things are happening. There's been some fails I've had. I'm like, girl,
Right.
ooh, there's been some situations, but you come back and you just do better. You learn a lesson and you move forward.
You know what? In this season, wow, we're getting spiritual for a second. In this season, what you just said is so great, because my spin on that is you just got to remix the idea. It's not to stop. It's just you just got to put a remix on the idea, and
come on,
it's still happening, and you still got to do it. It's just not how exactly, mama. Shit happens, but you just gotta, shit happens, but you're rolling with the punches, and I think it's extra pressure on creatives, on entrepreneurs, and everything, because it's not only I'm fucking up, but we can curse on yourself. Feel free to curse, but it's like not only that I'm fucking up, but it's like everything is depending on me, and that's a scary thing in the back of my head. Like if you're working at corporate and you fuck up, it's like, oh, okay, the company can just do whatever. But it's like my thing, and I'm putting so much not only of my capital into it, but my emotion and my being into it. It weighs heavier, and only so many people will get that. But the thing is, what I've come to realize in this season is that we're fearless. Our entrepreneurships are fearless. Our creators are fearless because we're choosing to live out loud. We're choosing to express ourselves and share it with the world. So it's like, what are we getting scared of a new opportunity for, when all you've been doing for yourself for all these years, or however long you've been doing it, is creating opportunities for yourself when you're scared as shit doing everything. So it's like, you're only scared because your threshold is getting bigger. And when your threshold gets bigger, what you think is a big task is going to be a small task when you supersede it, So, to keep in perspective, but I feel like I'm talking to myself because I should be talking to myself about that. But it's like, it's something that's some real shit. Like you got to, look at fear in perspective.
Yeah, I like that.
Put fear in perspective. And it's like, what are you scared of? Are you scared of getting the thing that you're asking for? Are you scared of maintaining it? Or are you scared of living up to whatever expectation that you probably only made up in your own head and nobody knows about until you tell them that
exactly that
you can do it? Yeah. So look at you, Mr. Grant Award winner for 2 years running, and you've done all this stuff. So it's like, how dare you be scared? How dare you be scared? People, learn from this.
Exactly. So like, you feel the fear and do it anyway. I love that quote. I don't know who the originator is. I heard it from Jennifer Lewis when I read her book. I remember I was reading that and I just jotted it down. I was like, this is the one. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Someone mentioned, yes, all this also on National Coming Out Day is really serendipitous. I'll say that. Like I was talking to I talk about it all the time, whatever, but being queer, being Black and queer specifically, is like, we are the people to honestly push the status quo, push boundaries, push more, like, so it's like you're talking about, what do we have to fear? And it's like, we are the one, we our ancestors are the ones that push things forward, especially like just the queer movement in general, but like we can all go on a whole like
we have a minute. We have till 7. But no, like, to your point, on National Coming Out Day, Also, shout out to everybody that came out, is questioning coming out, is living their truth, is trying to live their truth. Listen, do you, be you. But just speaking on fear and being fearless, being black and queer, living our lives authentically, being who we are is the scariest shit in America to deal with. So it's like fear is just a starting point. Once you get over that hump, you can do whatever you want. And it's like, okay, like I was talking about thresholds. It's like we got past this, and you're gonna get past the next thing. You're gonna get past the next thing. In the moment, it probably feels like your world's about to end, but then you look up and I was like, oh shit, I'm still here. I'm still doing this thing. I'm still pushing forward. And I think with fear and just going after your dreams, it's one of those things that you have to be comfortable with making a sacrifice, whether it's a sacrifice with a relationship, whether it's a sacrifice with my free time, whether it's a sacrifice with my reputation, what I've come to be or grown to be, and just, you know, putting yourself out there and not being afraid to start over or start from scratch. And when you do those things, you find out so many things about yourself in the process, and just making yourself open to new opportunities. And then that's how your threshold gets a little bit bigger. So yeah.
I like that. It's, you
Mhm.
know, honestly, hearing you talk about that, because I've been a little bit running through it in my head. I was a little
Mhm.
bit like you're talking about when you're meeting the next threshold. Like,
Right.
I like to be very candid, very real, very, very for the people. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, all the words, whatever. Like it's that next level. Like so I've been a single person, single entrepreneur, you know, whatever, LLC, whatever you want to call it. But it's like I'm recognizing like it's time to kind of start expanding and building a team out more. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
that has like not terrified me, but it's like it's like another, like you said, it's another tier, it's another thing of like having not necessarily employees. I can have contractors, but it's just like delegating things. I am a Capricorn. I like to control my things. I like
I
to
was gonna
I
ask you, what are you too?
so I'm a Capricorn sun, Gemini moon, and a Taurus
Mm-hmm.
rising. So
Okay, there's some air in there. Okay, got you, got you. I'm an Aquarius sun, Taurus moon,
oh,
and a Scorpio rising.
interesting mix.
All
That's
fixed and
fun.
hard
Oh
headed.
really? Oh
Yes,
wow.
all fixed signs, very hard headed, but we get what we need to get done.
I can see
Kind
that
of
Scorpio
mysterious.
with the Taurus too, hitting that. And
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love an Aquarius. I mean, I love other signs too. Da, da, da. But like a lot of my friends are Aquariuses, air signs. Well, my partner's a Gemini, but it's like the Aquariuses are the alchemists, and you kind of create magic from just whatever. And it's like it's really interesting
Right.
to watch y'all do stuff. Um,
Yeah.
but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we're not.
Yeah.
It's not astrology time, but
Okay. Oh, listen, shout out to all my other Aquarians in here. Because the thing is, you know what I love about us is that we are very dreamy. Sometimes we're disconnected from reality. Take that how you hear it. But all the things that we see in our minds, they ultimately get done. Because we have the gift of foresight. So it's like if I see it today, I'm like, oh, I can do that. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna do it, and it's gonna happen in the way that I see it. It's that disconnection from expectation and reality, like that allows us to push forward and be our authentic selves and do it in the way that we want to do it, and regardless of how long it takes. But we're
on
gonna
that
do
side,
it.
I guess y'all got a little bit of that from the Capricorns. We'll do whatever we need to do to get to our
Oh,
goal.
I'm in
The
February too.
longest
Yep,
time we need to
I'm a
do.
purebred.
And that's fine. That's fine. You
And
know.
that's fine. And that's fine.
But yeah, but the just the focus on getting all the like other things together. Like even I've been doing my taxes by myself. Like, girl, I need to get a tax. Like, I need to get a CPA. All the things. Like, stop doing all the things by myself. But
That's Pete
one
Capricorn.
one. Mm,
That is Pete Capricorn.
one day I'm gonna release it from myself. I will release it
Listen,
eventually. It's just
release release the taxes. Release the release
oh Beyonce, yes.
Okay, okay, Queen
Oh,
Mother of the World. Do we have a moment? Yeah.
we had a moment.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's so funny.
Mm. But yeah, okay. So we only have a little bit more time left, but I wanted to well, let me ask this question. NCA Bolero, what can we do to support the LGBTQ plus mental health even more? Okay, that's a good question. Would you like to take that first?
how can we help? Like outside of the giving specific things. I mean, I can only speak to. I can speak to what I can speak to. That's all I can do. Um,
Mm,
I'll say I've definitely recognized the benefits of therapy and just like
mm,
just understanding how you process not even just traumatic experiences, just experiences in general. It
mm,
is very, 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 very beneficial and very like I'll say, oh, that's another part of like another echelon of my artistry and the growth that happened was kind of part of through therapy and understanding the learning more about myself and accepting myself fully and accepting the darker sides, the light, the shadow, all the parts, and
mm,
understanding who I am to be more authentic. But also, what I definitely learned the most is being vulnerable and not thinking of vulnerability as weakness, but using your vulnerability to help others feel connected. And so,
mm,
I think that's part of why I've been so focused on in my art of being very intentional in sharing my story and sharing my views and my thoughts and stuff like that. Um,
mm.
and part of what I want to do is like, what do you call it? I do want to write a book eventually. Well, my partner's like, you write 2 books or whatever, but
Okay. You got some
well,
material.
the one he was like, I'm really luckily, thank, thankfully to my parents, they've been very instrumental in like when I was younger, using books like Think and Grow Rich and learning how to win friends and influence people.
Mhm.
So many other like self-help, self-development books and stuff like that. So like I've been very ingrained in learning how to control my mind and harnessing the power of my mind and stuff like that to think, and you kind of you build the world that you think about, and
Right.
if you focus on a lot of negative stuff will come back to you. And so there's that side, but then the other side of vulnerability is just showing like, well, that's different. But anyway, vulnerability into like, how can I put it? Sharing your experiences, and like you kind of were talking about earlier back, it's like you don't know what your experiences might touch somebody else's, and like you
Mm,
sharing it can help someone else feel seen, feel heard, and it's like you don't know just how much that could help somebody. So it's like part of
right.
the book I want to write is part of my experiences. I'm not going to go into that deeply,
Give us,
you
tease
know.
us, tease us. Just give us a little
It's
bit.
also,
Show a
I'll
little
say,
light.
being black, being queer, there's a lot of taboo topics or taboo things and things that happen in our experiences that, you know, um, I think more people should be sharing their stories so that younger people can understand. But like, like our ancestors were killed. I'm not killed, but like they died off because of like AIDS and HIV. So it's like we didn't our generation, I feel like we're like around the same age. I don't know. I'm not
Are you
gonna
taking? Okay,
no, it's fine.
okay. I was
We
like,
can leave that alone.
are we taking a shot in the dark?
I feel we are the same within 5 years
Picking
of
up
each
when
other.
I'm getting down. Okay,
Yeah.
got you.
So it's like we didn't really have all the um ancestors, the leaders that could like help share their stories for us. So it's like a little bit like the millennials, we kind of were like flailing in the wind a little bit in terms of like maneuvering, I guess say the gay lifestyle, the gay world, but like we can share our stories for like the Gen Zs and the people coming up after. So it's like at least we can do that now. So like that's part of what I want to do with the book I do want to write eventually.
Okay.
So I don't. That's a really
Well,
convoluted answer to supporting the mental health, but
oh, listen,
um,
support my book, and then we're doing the one that's coming
that is
out.
yeah okay. We got
I
it.
mean, that's all I'm saying. Just support us in the endeavors that we do. Just to add on that, be kind. Just be
Girl.
kind, like, because you never know. Like, not even just for LGBTQ plus people, just period. Like, people are going through a lot as the world turns, and there's a new pandemic every week, and people are losing their jobs, and like, there's circumstances that are happening. And even if these circumstances weren't happening, a focus on being kinder and patient and giving people grace.
Ooh, girl. Yes.
Giving people grace is a big part, because sometimes we look at things in a black and white spectrum in terms of like how we deal with people, like they're this or they're that, but you don't understand their why. And when you don't understand people's why, you can't properly like judge what they're going through. So try to be as kind as you can, and then come into it with understanding.
That's so. Oh wow, I talked about this with my partner the other day. It's like we were talking about like the trans journey and like being non-binary, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
at the core of it, at the core of everything,
Mm-hmm.
people just want to be people. People just want to live their lives. Everybody wants to live a nice experience. So why are we putting our ideals onto other people? Like if
Right.
someone says they're this, let them be that. Why does it matter what you think about it? It does not matter. They just want to live their life. Let
Right.
them live. So it's
Let
like,
people live. Like, I'm not bothering you. It's like Jocelyn said. Why? Why are you bothering me? Why can't I just live? Can I live? Can I
okay.
motherfucking live? But all right, but I like to do all my interviews with a couple hot seat questions before we go.
Oh,
So I have
okay.
a few questions. Answer honestly. Anything you don't want as incriminating evidence, you do not have to answer. So okay, here we go.
All right.
First question. What do you consider the most important piece of art that you've created so far?
Most important. Ooh. I made this piece that was it was for a show. It was basically it's a black woman with an afro. Well, she's black, she's red, but she's a black woman.
Mm,
And she has a chain
mm,
around her neck and a mask that's hanging from the chain that's cracked.
mm,
And so the name of it is Slaves to Our Masks. And that is a piece that is focused on breaking the facades that we put on for the world and that we build these, I guess you say armor to a degree. And when we
mm.
face the world, but it is kind of like that's not being your authentic self. So it's a
Right.
piece about not being a slave to your facade and being focused on living authentically. Yeah.
I like that. I like that. Okay. um, what would you say? This question number two. What would you say is the biggest cultural breakthrough in the past 10 years, or in 10 years, in terms of artistic expression?
Cultural breakthrough.
Yes.
Ooh, girl, I don't know.
It's a hot seat. Put you in the hot seat.
Breakthrough. I'm like, can you give me an explanation of that?
Like, what would you? Like we were talking about the internet earlier, and
Oh,
how
okay.
that's how people express their. Like, what would you say is the biggest breakthrough in terms of how we express ourselves, and what is the most important artistic moment in the last 10 years, in your opinion?
Girl, I don't know. I'm gonna say Reels and TikTok. I
I'm
don't
gonna
know.
plead
I
the
don't know.
fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth.
I'll say showing the process and like stuff like that for TikTok and like the Reels. I'll say the other side of the good part of like the internets and social is being able to really showcase your process and showcase the back end of art. Other people see just the artwork, but it's like what goes into actually creating it. So
Got you.
there.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And last question. All right. Now, the last question. All right. What is your most problematic take on how we display and express art in the digital age?
Mm.
Choose your words wisely.
I'm gonna say this from my experiences, especially as a photographer, especially just in knowing a few people's people's inclination to steal things or not
Uh,
not tag the originator or they didn't show the original of it. But also with that, a little extra on top of that is the I actually went to like a law like webinar kind of thing for art, and it's like even
mm,
for what I do collaging, it's like technically if you're taking images and redoing them without tagging the original owner, you can get
mm,
sued, honestly. And
mm.
it's like because you're taking their creative,
Like,
thank you. You're
mhm,
taking that and even though you're shifting it, I'll say I've learned in school that as long as you like edit the image enough where it's not exactly the same, I
mhm.
focus on it's like you're less liable, but actually the attorney was like, no, you can still get it if they recognize the image. I was like, anyway. So
Okay.
being careful about that and being
Good
aware
to know.
of tagging the originators, or at
Right.
least getting their okay to like adjust their images and stuff like that. So
A good remix on their idea. Got it.
Mhm.
Okay, and it's the final part of the show because we are about to wrap up. I like to ask these questions of everybody that comes on my show, on these IG lives, in real life. What is one word of advice that you always like to take with you to keep you motivated?
Ooh, one word of advice.
Mhm.
Honestly, I've said so many gems today.
I
I think
mean, I always write them down.
the one I say the one thing to take away from this is really focus on building a positive mindset and focusing on what can go right versus what can go wrong, and not living in the world of right and no, I'm saying not right and wrong, it's like good and evil, but being
Mhm.
less focused on dichotomies and the binary and being more live in the gray area a little bit. I live the gray. So that, yeah.
Okay, well, that's a good one. That's a good one. And then also, how can we support? How can we pour support into you?
Ooh.
I asked this question because Black and queer people, I feel like we at times talk at each other and not to each other instead
Ooh.
of connecting and seeing how we're more alike than different, and then also like just building community. Like, it doesn't always have to be me versus you, I'm that girl versus I'm that girl. It's like, no, but how can we compliment each other? How can we uplift each other? And like Issa Rae said, which I hold dearly to heart, network across to help each other uplift.
I was
So
about to say
how
it's
can
for everybody black, but okay, girl, yes.
oh, okay. I mean that too, but not everybody. But how can we pour into you as a person? Like, what would you need as something that we can like support you, the person?
Me, the person. I mean,
Mhm.
money is always great, but no.
I mean,
I have a
I
studio
mean,
fund on my website, ramcreates.com/studio fund, if you want to do that. But just pouring into me, just honestly, hit me up, DM me if you want to share your story, if you want to chat, if you want advice. I'm always here for that. I'll say this. I was telling my partner, my cup runneth over with love, with joy, with excitement, with all the things. I'm here to kind of pour into other people's cups because I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm great where I'm at. I'm not necessarily in need of anything necessarily.
Mhm.
Money is always great to have, but so I'm like, I'm here to just kind of pour into I'm just money.
Money, but give it here, give it here.
Help
If
me,
I had nails,
please.
then click.
Help me implore. No, I'm sorry. Anyway, that,
Hmm.
but it's actually fun. Well, just to add a little thing, it's funny. I mentioned, or you mentioned the queer, especially queer Black people. Actually, started with me and Kareem, Mr. Bake. We kind of started a Black queer entrepreneur, like kind of, I'll say mastermind group, just kind of joining each other and communing and talking about business and stuff like that. So it's like, I do hope that expands and grows. So maybe we'll have chapters and things here and there. But
Okay.
honestly, if I'll say this for people watching or watching later, or whatever, kind
Hmm.
of form your own community of just whatever you need specifically. Find that community, because it's like, honestly, when I started talking to Kareem and them, like just about business and being Black queer in business, it's like it's a space and it's a mindset that you can't find just talking to everybody. So it's like really great finding the community that you really, really need to help you get to the next step. Get to the next step. Um,
Yeah.
I just want to add that little thing in there.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, good. That's a great transition into my last thing. So that's about it because our time is almost up. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I feel
Same,
like I know you for like
yes.
ever now.
I'm a very familiar person. I'm very
Mhm.
endearing to the people.
I'm
So it's
around.
like,
I'm around, but not really. Is what I'm saying.
yes, exactly
Is
that.
there? Bye, bye.
You see me when you see me, and when I'm not, all right.
Listen,
I'm
don't look for
always,
me in 2 and 3 because
yes, because I'm in the beauty shop. Okay, girl.
um,
Ah, come on, Jackie's back.
listen, if you know, you know.
Ah, that's so funny.
All right,
Ooh.
so where can we find you? This is plug time, so plug away on your socials and all that.
Honestly, I love to say this. If you Google Rashad Ali Muhammad, Muhammad, you will find
Uh-huh.
all of me. And everything is Ram Creates, all one word, Ram Creates on Instagram, ramcreates.com, Ram
Mm-hmm.
Creates Facebook, this, that, third, whatever. Rashad Muhammad or Ram Creates. All with
Okay.
that.
Got you. Okay. Well, again, Rashad, it's been a pleasure. Good luck to you on the opening in November. November what again?
First.
November.
So
Oh,
I get my
the month.
keys the
Right.
first, but then
Okay.
we have to like, furnish and everything. So there's no official opening date. I'll be there if you want to come by.
Got you. Okay, we building a community. We helping out. We're sending. We're recommending. There you go.
We're
Spreading
sending
love.
money.
Sending money and recommending love. recommending love. All right, everybody. My name is KP. You guys can follow me on KP_official1, or you can follow the official Making a Moment page, which is coming out very, very soon. I'll be on the promo trail for that. Making a Moment official Making a Moment official on Instagram and the TikTok. So make sure you follow me there, and we'll make it a moment like this. Okay. So until next time, everybody. Rashad, thank you, and have a great night.
You too.
All right. Bye.
Bye.